Josh,
Yes.
is it illegal to be homeless right now?
Well, there's a lot going on right now, and a lot of people think that that's what's happening, but there's a lot more to it.
I'm KK. I'm the founder of Care Beyond the Boulevard. We're a street medicine program. We're on the front line providing health care to those who are experiencing homelessness.
I'm Josh. I help cities solve homelessness. I want to talk about why cities make laws that feel like homelessness is illegal.
This is Untangling Knots, where we break down complicated topics about homelessness from two different perspectives. Today is episode 9. Is it illegal to be homeless? Let's go.
All right, quick disclaimer. The views and opinions expressed on the show do not necessarily reflect those of my employer, my team, my supporters, or my friends. So if you've got a problem with anything I'm saying, bring it to me.
Disclaimer holds true for me as well, that my thoughts and opinions are those of me. They do not reflect those of my staff, of my organization. They probably do my family because, that's how it goes.
They like you.
All right. So sometimes. All right. Let's dig into this, Josh. So let's talk about this. So there's a lot of talk right now about illegal camping and essentially making homelessness illegal. Like there's not a law that says you can't be homeless or you'll be arrested, but there are laws that really discourage homelessness. What tell me about it?
Well, I think a couple things are happening. I don't think that there are laws that make homelessness illegal. And I think when people say that, I think it hurts the overall movement of addressing homelessness. Now, I think it feels good in that echo chamber to say they're making homelessness illegal and there's some camaraderie around that. The problem, though, is it's not true. And if we want to solve problems, we have to be very specific and nuanced in how we do it. And I understand among the world of homeless services, this is not a popular thing to say, but it's the right thing to say. We've got to be honest here. When cities make laws around no camping in public, the laws are built around a behavior that most human beings in most societies will say, we can't have this here. That's what's happening. So the laws on the books almost universally reflect folks not wanting public intoxication, fighting, taking clothes off, substance use, folks who bring the substances. They're not really interested in that in their parks, on their sidewalks. So when they make laws, it's going to target those behaviors. Chronic homelessness is beset with those behaviors because they have untreated healthcare conditions. That's what they are.
Right.
They're healthcare conditions, and they deserve to be treated with respect and dignity. The problem is it's all happening out in the public, and the general public is not comfortable with that ever. Think about it another way, though. Imagine your housed neighbor is in the front yard, takes his clothes off, and is setting tires on fire. Someone's going to call 911. Right. So what we like to do is this selective morality where it's okay if one group does that, but if another group does that, then it's wrong. A city doesn't run that way. Either a thing is or isn't. And that's what is being enforced.
Okay. So recently, Kansas City, Kansas,
which is a neighboring city to ours.
A neighboring city to ours. And so we know about this, but other cities have done this as well. Yeah. Where, and please tell me if I'm incorrect, they have made public camping illegal.
Yes.
Okay. So I understand what you're saying when you're talking about, well, you can't bring drugs into an area and you can't be naked and public intoxication is illegal, which has been illegal for many, many years. As long as I've been alive. Yeah. Yes. I don't know when that started, but probably back in the 30s. But so tell me how, in your opinion, because remember, these are opinions. In your opinion, how does making public camping illegal not target homelessness? Like, I understand what you're saying about all the other pieces.
It is targeting homelessness.
Okay. So
exactly what it's targeting.
Okay. So then how do you feel about that law?
How do I feel about it?
Yeah.
I don't know. Like, I think there's a tendency in the world of homeless services to be anti anything that makes homelessness uncomfortable in some way. I don't share that because I don't think it's effective to solve homelessness that way. I'm also kind of a robot person, for those who don't know. The law is there to do so. Like, I think of it another way. The most common car that is caught for a DUI is a Dodge Ram 2500.
How do you know that?
DUI laws don't exist to impound Dodge Ram 2500.
Okay.
They exist to stop DUIs.
Right.
the laws that are targeting that behavior, they don't necessarily exist to hassle homeless folks. Homeless folks just so happen right now, modern homelessness does those things. But regardless of the housing situation of the person doing it, a city is saying, we don't want this. It's not going to work here.
Well, okay.
Remove the housing status from the behavior.
Sure.
That's what it is.
However, you can't quite remove it. Like, this is where there's a lot of gray areas.
No, the homeless services doesn't remove it.
No. I know.
A neighbor,
right?
They don't care.
A
tire burning in their front yard is a tire burning in their front yard. So please see it that way. That's what I'm saying.
No. Sure. I'm looking at your perspective. My issue, if we look at Kansas City, Kansas specifically, and I don't know about the other cities, like what they have available. I think one of the things that you and I know, because we live in the metro, is that Kansas City, Kansas doesn't have any shelters. On the Kansas side of the entire Kansas City metro, and for those of you who know, the Kansas City metro is quite large.
Oh yeah.
There are no shelters on the Kansas side of the metro. There are, now don't get me wrong, there's some transitional housing and there are some cold weather shelters, which are stellar, right? There's one in Johnson County. The Kansas City, Kansas cold weather shelter really upped their game a few years ago and really did a fantastic job.
My staff
continue. Yes.
They're great.
Amber did that. Well, she was working for me.
I stole Amber from
you did, but she's in a very good place and
yeah.
We're still friends, so we're good. But so there are cold weather shelters on the Kansas side, but there is no year-round shelter on the Kansas side of the metro. Now, what's happened in Kansas City, Kansas, is they're making it illegal to camp outside. And I do have a problem with this because they're making it illegal to camp outside and there are no solutions, right? You and I are working on solutions. Like this podcast is Untangling Knots and trying to figure out how we can end homelessness. You can't end homelessness by making it illegal to camp outside when you have no solutions.
Those are two different things, though.
Well, but they are two different things. But the ordinance saying you can't camp outside, where are they going to
That's
go?
not the point of the ordinance. That's the thing. So the World of Homeless Services, we love to combine things that aren't combinable. The most common thing we like to combine, and you're seeing this in New York City right now. And I have no judgment for a city's going to make a law. We're going to figure out how to work around it. Like that's my move. Like, okay, now we move forward. That's kind of why I have the position that I have. I don't spend time getting angry about it.
You don't have to you don't have to like it, but
right.
It is. I mean, it's like
yes.
It's like the funding from HUD that comes down. We don't have to like it, but this is what it's going to be. So let's move forward. Right.
So the area we love to combine the most is encampment sweeps. So Zoran Mamdani, New York City, has said when he goes into office January, he's going to end the practice of homeless sweeps in New York City. And the reason he's citing for doing that is the outcomes aren't great. He's saying homeless folks aren't getting into housing. The point of a homeless sweep is not get homeless folks into housing. A homeless sweep is not a service to homeless folks. A sweep is a service to the people who are calling 911.
Right.
In the same way, a law about no camping is not in any way designed to help homeless folks get off the street. That's not what it's designed for. It is designed to quell the frustration of a large group of the voting public. That is the point of it. And that large group of the voting public is saying, homelessness, okay, but that behavior, not okay.
But the problem is, again, homelessness, okay, but it's not, because where are they going to sleep?
That's not the point of the law.
Well, I understand it's not the point of the law, but it's a domino effect.
Oh, I get it. No,
right.
Please no. I to the world. And once you how dare you? I get it. I understand. Where are they going to go? They're going to be pushed out. In no
They're
way
going to come to Kansas City, Missouri.
Sure. I mean, this happens all the time. So, when you're in a metro, it is so much easier if the surrounding municipal subdivisions, that's another fancy word for cities, all have similar laws.
Right.
Because the area with the most stringent rules pushes folks to the one with the least. And then if that one creates a law that's more stringent, it pushes it to the next one and then the next one. Now, overall, this isn't universally true because most of the time, folks experiencing homelessness, they stay in the same footprint.
Right.
They stay where they're comfortable, whether they're not welcome there or not, which is brutal for self-confidence, for their self-worth. It's brutal. It hurts. And I wish there was a commensurate, appropriate level of service to the level of enforcement. I think that is the most practical way to do it. But I also recognize that cities aren't governed around morality. Never. I know we wish it were. In homeless services, we imagine this world that has never existed and apply it. That's never existed.
And it's probably not going to either.
And the other thing is, the general public does not believe that the government is designed to solve homelessness. They don't put pressure on the government to do it. They think nonprofits need to do it. So if the voting public doesn't think the government is responsible for this, they're not going to tell them to do it. They're just going to tell them to make laws where I don't have to deal with this stuff. So the moment the general public goes, you know what? The government needs to have an outsized role in this, the entire conversation changes. And that's why I speak about it the way I do. If we try and convince the voting public who don't like tires burning, you're never going to convince them of that. You're never going to convince a mom with a 7-year-old that the encampment across the street from the bus stop is okay. Not going to happen. But what you can do is convince that mom and 7-year-old that their elected officials have a lot to do with addressing that encampment and how seriously they want to take it and how responsible they, the voters, feel that their elected official is. And we aren't doing that enough. We have to shift this conversation, because if local governments aren't taking responsibility for this, we're never going to solve the problem, ever. Because all it takes is someone to say, not my problem. I'm going to build a theoretical law-built wall around my city.
So with this law in Kansas City, Kansas, do you know what other cities have enacted laws like this and what the outcomes have been? I know there have been others.
So this is new. So in a year and a half ago, the Supreme Court finally weighed in on whether or not cities could create laws that say you can't have an encampment.
Yep.
For the longest time, it was protected under the Fourth Amendment. This is cruel and unusual punishment. Well, the Supreme Court says no. There is no connection to the commensurate number of shelter beds in a law that you would create. The Supreme Court said that is not true. And it opened the door for cities to actually start creating any kind of enforcement around encampments. So this is new, relatively.
Right.
It's sweeping the country to some degree, but it's going to get much, much more. And here's why. Right now, if you want federal funding to address homelessness, you are required to have a law on your books that deals with encampments. Now, I think we all know enforcement in general in life is selective.
Where is that from HUD?
Yeah.
Is that HUD law? Yeah. So I actually don't know that I've read it. I may have read it. But.
Yeah. So what HUD's going to do is HUD is going to look at your municipality's laws.
Okay.
And what they're going to say is, if your municipality is allowing encampments to do whatever, they reserve the right to say, we're not going to fund you.
So they're not saying you have to make camping illegal, but you have to address it in some way. And can you give me other examples of addressing that?
Yeah, addressing an encampment means you have a community that doesn't tolerate unsheltered homelessness. That's what they're looking for. Now, I think that there's a spectrum of what enforcement looks like.
Sure.
And enforcement is always local.
Yeah.
And let's be honest, enforcement is always selective. So what cities are doing, they're not necessarily saying we want the police to just go out there and throw nets around homeless folks. Cities are creating options for themselves to do enforcement when it becomes necessary. That's what's overwhelmingly happening. Municipalities don't have the money to do this. They know it. The police don't want to do it. They're also human beings who live in your community.
Exactly.
They don't like doing it.
They don't want to arrest people.
Overwhelmingly, the police officers, and many of them in KCK, my team and I, we train many of them in KCMO, and they still have amazing relationships. You know what police departments want? They want options for homeless folks. Overwhelmingly. 99.9%. Yep. That's what I'm saying. But what a city is saying is, if we're stuck here and this encampment won't move, we need to have a legal mechanism to address it. So it's almost like you have to, like, payer of last resort.
Yeah, right.
Medicaid, this is a law of last resort. That's what's mostly happening in cities. Just to be honest, that's what's mostly happening.
Yeah, because, I think that it's good to look at it that way. Because for me, as an organization, serving people who are experiencing homelessness, it's frightening.
Yeah.
Many of our patients have been arrested for trespassing or being in places where they're not supposed to be, but they don't have anywhere to go.
Right.
And so when I look at it, and I know that other homeless serving organizations feel the same way, that and I understand what you're saying when you say, well, the law and the options are not the same. And I get it that they're not the same, but from my standpoint, I also need options.
Yeah.
Right. And I don't feel like the only option for someone should be going to jail, because what we see in homeless services, and you and I have talked about this so many times, is the vicious cycle that happens.
Oh yeah.
And jumping in and out of homelessness, and just how difficult it is. And jail is not the answer.
Jail is
for our patient
profoundly ineffective.
Population. It is profoundly ineffective. And the people in the jail also don't want to hold individuals. No. I mean,
it's expensive. It hurts
and
them.
It's not the right place. So the jail is it's there for a reason, a specific reason. I'm going to give you an example. We have a patient in our safe haven, right? In our medical respite, we have a safe haven piece. And I recently got called by another agency, and they said, we have this lady that's sitting in jail on the Kansas side, and she, it's a very long, convoluted story, but essentially shouldn't be there, shouldn't be in jail, but had nowhere to go. She was going to be dismissed to the street from jail, and they were literally holding her for her protection. And we tried to work with a couple of other agencies to get her into kind of a long-term shelter to connect her to services. And there weren't any other options. And so we took her into our safe haven. And this story is sad. I mean, she's elderly and never been homeless. And there was an altercation there. She probably has some dementia, and we're trying to work through that. But she was going to end up on the streets and literally dead from being on the streets. And it would have been, had she been sleeping outside, like they were keeping her in the jail to protect her, which sounds crazy, but it's not the place for her to be. Like, she had been there for several months by the time she came to us, and, you know, she was weak, and she was, because she wasn't getting the exercise that she needed at her age. And but they were literally trying to protect her.
And they had nowhere to put her.
Nowhere for her to go. And
so I imagine that the police were frustrated that they didn't have a safe place to even take this person.
Right.
And I think you're going to see that across the country.
And she is not a harm to herself or anyone else. I mean,
she's a potential victim, certainly.
She
is in danger.
She is in danger.
Without question.
Absolutely. As many of our women aren't. That's for another podcast.
Yes.
Right.
So I think also when cities create enforcement mechanisms, and this is what we did in Kansas City, our team saw the enforcement train a-coming. It was sort of inevitable. Even in the most liberal pockets of Kansas City, which is where we live, you're seeing a shift. The most liberal people here are saying, look, we can't deal with incumbency. The behavior there is untenable. You know what human beings don't like? Unpredictable and elements of danger. That is what an encampment is. Right. That is not a statement of judgment. That's what happens when you got a bunch of folks in survival mode who have untreated healthcare conditions.
Absolutely.
It's tough. It's a tough environment.
I mean, we always say to people, don't go into encampments by yourself.
Like, don't.
I see folks on Facebook like, I want to go take food to the home. Don't
Please
go
stop.
into an encampment. It's
stop
not
acting like a hero.
Our people,
we don't need heroes.
The people that live outside are nice people.
Yeah.
Right? They are nice people. But when every single minute, every second of your life is a fight for survival, you have to do what you have to do to survive.
Yes.
And
don't be surprised.
A really harsh reality of what we see and what our people have to endure every single day. And so it isn't roses and sunshine out there. And I think that for when you're talking about having laws that make it illegal, I think, again, I'm going to go back to I want solutions.
Well, I'm going to be honest. The World of Homeless Services has done a lot to bring this problem on themselves. And here's what I mean. I'm going to get a little linear and a little philosophical here. For the last 20 years, the World of Homeless Services has told America that all homelessness is an economic issue. And the way they've done it is by convincing everyone in the field of homeless services that homelessness is a housing issue. Primarily and only it's about housing. But what you do when you bring it to that level is you're telling people behavior is not an issue. the only problem, the only reason someone is outside is because of a lack of housing. That is not true. When you think that, when you have convinced a large group of people that it's only about housing, you don't think that the behaviors in the encampment are something to even be worried about, right? So a lawmaker saying, well, we need to make laws to prevent these encampments. I mean, if it's just about housing, they can stop that behavior. Behavior's not an issue, right?
Right.
Behavior's not an issue. So this isn't a problem. So we need to stop this from happening because they'll just stop doing it because all they need is housing. Turns out that's not true. It turns out homeless services painted themselves into a pretty bad corner because behavior is primarily the issue outside. And the behavior is being caused by untreated healthcare conditions.
Well, and I think what we're seeing right now, we're seeing this to be true because we're having people who are getting housed and then getting kicked out of that housing.
Yep.
Because those behaviors continue. Because
we didn't take them seriously.
Because what we did is we gave them a place to live. We put them in a box, which is not a good thing. Put them in a box.
Isolated them.
With no services or limited services.
Yes.
And those behaviors, those mental health disorders.
They don't just go away.
They continue. And I think that making sure that we understand that it's very convoluted. Now, housing is healthcare. I'm going to say that. Like, I firmly believe that.
Don't get me wrong. Housing's great.
No. Right.
Exactly. Need housing, but that's not
housing
the issue.
Is healthcare because then you can better navigate your health. I mean, you can better navigate your health if you're living inside.
That's right.
You know, if I have a diabetic living in her car and it's like it is in Kansas City right now, like freezing,
she's gonna have a hard time.
You can't keep that insulin out there.
Nope.
So if you're living in a house, it can. So you can make it easier
to
navigate your
housing's
healthcare.
A good start. Housing's a great start.
Right.
But it's a hospital without doctors and medicine.
Yeah.
You got to have those other components to get well.
And you have to have a team who continues to engage until a person is ready.
Yes.
Or able to make those steps on their own. I mean, for many people who are living outside, they've been homeless for a long time in the Kansas City metro. Now, other cities are different. They have varying lengths of homelessness.
Our average length of homelessness in Kansas City is in the years.
It's a long time.
Do you know what it is in Milwaukee?
Months. Yeah.
Months.
And I think it's like, I don't know if it's still like that in Houston. It wasn't like that in Houston for a while.
But they've done a good job.
Yeah.
They've done a great job.
They've done a great job. And so...
Because they have options for folks. When they go to encampment, guess what? There's a guaranteed spot for them.
Yeah.
That is the apps. You want to make enforcement easy? You make enforcement easy when everyone has an option in that encampment.
Are you aware of the laws in Massachusetts? Like,
no. What's
do you have look, I'm not from Massachusetts, so if anybody
we
wants
might
to
get
weigh
it wrong.
it might be a little bit wrong.
Yeah.
But one of the things that happens out there, I recently visited Boston's Healthcare for the Homeless, which is a phenomenal program and what I modeled Care Beyond the Boulevard after. And for a family who presents as homeless, they are given housing that day. Now, the caveat to that is if they're in Boston and they present, they may be moved 3 hours away. Or Massachusetts isn't that big, but you know what I'm saying. Like, it might not be in the Boston metro.
Wherever it's available.
Wherever it is available.
And they're willing.
They are. I don't. Yeah, right. And because I asked that question, I was like, oh, they don't want to move.
Yeah.
Right. And they're like, people don't say that. Right. They don't say that. Ready. They go because they have children on the streets or potentially children on the streets. I was like, how does that even work? Like, and I don't know how that works. So if anybody from Massachusetts wants to weigh in and tell us how that works, but it's not like that in most cities and most states, and it's the pathway to housing is quite long and treacherous, and so that's why for me, I still struggle with the basic making homelessness illegal, making camping illegal, because I see so many people living on our streets, and I know this is true in many cities in the United States, that there are no options right now in front of us. So, so you brought up a good point that, like, it's not like there's an encampment, we're going to arrest everybody in there. It's when it becomes extreme that they have those options. But when you're living from a black and white perspective, and the thing that I say probably every day is that the work we do is gray. Everything we do is gray. But when you look at it from a black or white perspective, which I rarely do anything, but making it illegal to sleep outside when there are no other options, I still struggle with that.
Because it's not about sleeping outside, and you know it.
Well, I understand.
We gotta get real here. It's not about sleeping outside.
In my brain, it is about what are their options. And so I understand what you're saying. I don't necessarily agree with it. Not that I think you're wrong, but I'm
it's philosophically
looking down. It is very tough because I'm looking downstream. And so say you have someone who's like, well, I want to clear this encampment, so I'm going to arrest everybody and put them in jail. Okay, and then when they get released from jail in, I don't know, a day or 2 or 5, where are they going to go? Because there's still no place to go.
Well, guess what? You satisfied the dozen people who called 911.
Yeah, until tomorrow.
Yeah, but
or
they
until
don't.
Next week.
But
I know.
Politically, it works to do it the other way. So until the general public sees it different, why are politicians going to do it different? Right. I'm not saying I like it.
Right.
I'm just saying this is the current political reality we're in, and we have to solve for it. And saying you're making homelessness illegal does not move the needle.
Right.
It doesn't help. It's an echo chamber. The World of Homeless Services loves to say it. It has absolutely no impact on actually solving this problem. The way we solve it is we got to get the folks who are calling 911 to believe that there's a better way to do it. Until we listen to them, they're not going to, why would they listen to us?
Right.
If we're not going to take their complaints seriously, we're going to say, you should be okay with this. They're not going to really go along with what we're saying. And that's the goal. The goal is no one has to sleep outside. That has to be the goal. Where these laws are irrelevant because everyone has a place in the system. And in order to do that, we need the entire community support to include the folks who are calling 911.
So you brought up New York City a little bit ago, and the mayor who is going to end encampment sweeps. From a city perspective, and I know we're really talking about legalities, but that's part of the legal system. What are your thoughts on ending encampment sweeps in New York City?
I think this is a great topic for our next podcast.
Teaser. We didn't even plan that again.
No, but it's a great topic. So next week, we're going to talk about New York City ending encampment sweeps. And here's what's fascinating. New York has a law that almost no community has. They have what's called a right to shelter law.
Right. Absolutely.
Theoretically,
everybody gets shelter.
Everyone gets shelter.
Newsflash. I was in New York City recently in December, and there are people sleeping outside.
Yes, there are.
So
let's talk about
what's up. Yeah, let's talk about
next week. We're going to get into it.
All right. Anything else you want to talk about with this subject?
So many things. I love it. I think the biggest thing is, please understand, enforcement doesn't solve homelessness. Enforcement satiates a portion of the public whose voice needs to be heard.
Right.
Ending homelessness has to be the goal. You're never going to enforce your way to ending homelessness. And if you're a city out there and you want to make enforcement effective, the best way to make it effective is you got to have a place for folks to go.
Right.
Make it make sense.
Exactly.
That's it.
All right. So we're going to go to your favorite part of the podcast.
Yes.
With Ask the Experts.
You're good.
Oh, I've got it handed in.
Okay.
Sorry.
Hey, Josh, you mentioned a Supreme Court case about 1.5 years ago.
Yeah.
Can you give us a little bit of detail about that case for those listening that want to research it some more?
Yeah. So this was in the 9th Circuit. So on the West Coast, I think it was in Washington or Idaho. Anyway, Pacific Northwest. A city tried to make a law that says you cannot camp in public. And they were sued. That city was sued. And it made its way all the way to the 9th Circuit, so before the Supreme Court. And the 9th Circuit said, no, this is a Fourth Amendment violation. Cities, you are not allowed to make a law about addressing encampments if you don't have a shelter bed. Because that was the final place, that statute went out across the country. So every city knew if they created a law like that, they'd be sued and eventually referred to the 9th Circuit, and the law would be overturned. So cities across the country, none of them made laws. Well, guess what? Gavin Newsom led a group that sued to get that law overturned. The governor of California, blue of blue states, took this to the Supreme Court because he wanted options in his state for cities to deal with encampments. And the Supreme Court, right-leaning, and I think, and I'm being honest here, regardless of if I like it or not, I think this is the correct interpretation of the law. I don't think that those two things are equal. I think the onus now is on the city to do something to address homelessness. I think this is going to be able to put a fire ultimately under cities to do it. But the Supreme Court said, yes, cities can now address homelessness, or at least public camping. It's no longer illegal to make a law that says you cannot camp here. That has had a cascading effect across the country. That is the impetus for the enforcement movement that we're seeing right now.
Let me ask you a quick question. I'm going to follow up on that because you touched on this. Who do you think is responsible for ending homelessness? I just want your opinion.
What I think should happen, I think every city, whoever governs an area, it might be a county, whatever, they need to have someone who is responsible for whether homelessness is going down. Now, in order to do that, you got to have a lot of system improvement. So that person can take responsibility when that system is in place, and that's what needs to happen. I believe the local government ought to take a responsible role in this, provided the resources are in place for them to execute.
I kind of knew that was your answer. And right now, do you feel like cities are adequately doing that?
No.
I kind of knew that answer.
But here's the deal, too. Like, it would be irresponsible for my team and I to take responsibility for it because we control none of the system.
No, I know.
So the system really has to adapt in order to get this done. The grassroots model does not work to address homelessness. It works to help nonprofits succeed and do good work, but in no way is the current system in 99% of cities ever going to actually solve the problem. You have to have a top-down model. Same way you solve potholes.
Right.
You can't just leave it up to anyone on what to fill it with, when to fill it. We don't fill it. It's against the law to fill this pothole on this street.
Yeah, pothole problems here.
Yeah.
Yeah, all right.
KK.
Yeah.
Your nonprofit, Care Beyond the Boulevard, oversees a what do you call the Beehive? A consortium of nonprofit services. At the Beehive, do you encounter any of these legal enforcement issues? Do you ever need to help your clients with legal issues here at the Beehive?
Oh, well, I mean, yeah. At the Beehive, on our street outreach, at all of our clinics. We have 10 clinics a week at our medical respite. We have a lot of people who have legal issues that need to be addressed. And one of the things that happens, and I'm not talking, so just make this clear, we're now not talking about like camping. We're talking about legal issues that our clients have for whatever reason, whether it's, maybe they got in a fight or, public intoxication. I mean, there's a lot of things. It happens for sure.
Just another knot to untangle.
Just another knot. Our clients always we are continually dealing with legal issues with our clients, and the problem is oftentimes they don't know they're there, right? They maybe have something from a year or two ago, and there's a bench warrant out, or and so what we do is we try to work with clients. That's actually a beautiful question. We have a patient in our medical respite who had a legal case and had to go to court. Now, this patient is in our medical respite because he has some extensive injuries and wounds. And when our case manager took him to court, one of his concerns is, I'm going to get arrested. But our nurse practitioner, who oversees all of the care at our respite, she wrote a letter to the judge and said, this is what's going on. And of course, got the patient's permission because HIPAA laws, told them what's going on with the client, the care that he's getting with us, that we're working towards long-term solutions for his homelessness, and all of these things that we're doing and truly doing with the patient. So he was taken into custody that day that he went to court, but they released him primarily because of that letter, because there was someone. And had we not been working with him, then he would have been in jail for whatever reason. And I wasn't intimately involved and know all of the, what he was arrested for and what the warrant was for. But we see this happen quite frequently with our patient population, where there are legal things that they've had come up and not able to use their voice or understand the process. It's actually very similar to our patients with their medical conditions. The medical conditions are a little bit more ongoing and long-term, but so are some of the legal issues. And having a voice and having someone to help you navigate those it really is beneficial. I mean, we have patients who won't go to hospitals because they know there's a warrant out for their arrest and they're afraid that they're going to get arrested. They're not. But so yes, legal issues facing our patients, our clients are numerous and ongoing. And so that's one of the things that we do is help navigate that. Great question. Great question. So that's it for today's episode of Untangling Knots. Join us next time on Untangling Knots, where we're going to continue to explore the challenging realities of homelessness without the sugarcoat. Cut.
Good work. We did it. Oh, yeah. Oh, I didn't too hard.
I don't think that's how we wanted to do it.
It wasn't smooth at all.